Welcome back to Magic Kaito Anime Review Part 3. This is reviewing the two OVAs the series had. The first one being the Kid versus Conan versus Yaiba, the decisive battle over the sword. Yep, that's pretty one's but this have to take the first one here is Chapter 18 the manga, which is to point out though was never adapted for either the specials for Magic Kaito, nor the 1412 anime. This one is a crossover with a series known as Yaiba. I personally haven't watched the series, but I know its length. The anime is like 52 episodes. The manga is like a little over, I think it's about 230 chapters, I think it is. Yeah, from what I can tell by it, looks like it's some kid who ends up in sort of modern day Japan, thinks it's so samurais around. He's a big samurai fan. This one basically starts off very awkwardly, having the Junior Detective League just going back to Conan's house, where talking about Anita, but she's not in the special. I think that the whole thing about her being like supposedly insulting him, and they walk home and they come across a witch, which Amy calls an old lady, and then she just like she doesn't like that much. She takes a robe and it's Akano from Magic Kaito, the witch of the series. Yep, in her smoking hot attire. She only appeared twice in the whole damn series. Yep, she was, oh yeah, there's a big threat against, like, the Kaito, there's a big threat coming about, and yeah. Like, oh look, your crystal ball is floating. Now I should point out though, this is the only time this woman's ever interacted with anybody associated with the Case Closed series. Not even anybody. This is her only time she ever interacted with anybody. After this, they go back to the more detective agency, and they run into two lady. Well, basically, things starts out very interestingly. Conan basically be given a bag full of Yaiba manga, all 24 volumes, which I think that's the actual amount that the series had. Let me look it up on here, because I haven't yet, but this probably is the actual length of the actual series. Like, I know the anime is like roughly like 52 episodes right now. Is 24 volumes? Yes, it is. It is 24 volumes. That is indeed true. Yep. And then of course they go home, and they meet two people from the Yaiba series. Basically, the character who is kind of considered to be his love interest, who's just a few years older than he is, and her mother. And they hire, well, Richard Moore to protect this treasure sword. And then, well, talk about this heist, because apparently Kaito Kid wants it, and of course Conan ends up in Richard Moore's lap somehow. Magic just pops up there, and there's Amy, George, and Mitch just happy around him. Conan gets hit in the head. Of course, they go to the house, which basically is like an old-fashioned, basically a Japanese mansion. The inspector is there. The inspector who's known for chasing the Kaito Kid. Yeah, apparently they can't go on the property, so they're like, okay, we can't go on the property. We know that the Kaito Kid wants to steal the sword, so let's just basically go on the outside of the fence. Which I don't think and of course here's the thing, the old lady is the size of a little kid. Basically, yeah, it's something that they basically mistake this old lady to be a grandma, this little person to be an old lady, but that's basically how things work in anime. So, basically, they get home, and of course, oh, and by the way, does the Inspector Richard Moore even talk to each other in this particular scene? The answer is no, they don't. Yeah, that's the weird thing about Richard Moore and the actor. They have, despite the fact being in the same episode together, they have barely interact, despite the fact these two are so similar. And yet these two never started drink together. And these two go out drink anyways. Well, they usually go drink with their friends. Yep, so they go inside, and of course they have every meeting with some people. Like, they get a chance to meet the father of the 14-year-old, and then they're basically looking about, and they come across three animals who are Yaiba's pets. They're supporting characters from the series: a vulture, a frog, and I'm trying to think what was. Oh yeah, a tiger, which apparently are friends of his somehow. Yep. Oh yeah, and the Kaito Kid interacts with the kid as well. And then we see the Kaito Kid on top of a building that's near to this place. You see him basically in a school uniform, looks at the place, he jumps down and he's magically in his clothes. Somehow, I think doesn't bother to explain it. Doesn't do a quick change thing. Nope, just jumps down, poof, there he is, basically in his clothes. And then he goes fly over. And he looks for the. Of course, he runs to the vulture, runs into the frog. Of course, he meets the frog by accident, just basically hits the water. And he walks across the roof, and he falls into the girl's room, seeing her with take off her bra. And then he proceeds to sort of bewitch her by give a peck in the cheek. He says, where's Treasure's sword? In a dojo. We're like, okay, thank you. And he's walking about, and then he comes across her mother. Gives her a kiss in the hand, allows her to go all the way, runs her leg, a quick change for her, and get back in the hand for her, and of course he goes off. And then he yells at, he gets very angry at the Kaito kid for bewitching his wife and daughter. And he runs to the dojo, and there's Yaiba with the sword, part of it basically tied back of his head. And how does the Kaito get away from him? Basically, well, first we're moving away from with the using his card gun is basically kind of like a thing, block a sword. He was like, "What's over there?" He's like, he looks at it, and he just ties the thing, takes the sword, runs off, and then he starts chasing him in his kite. Yes, his kite. And it proceeds to knock him out, and they get the sword back, and then basically also Conan's got in hands first time the alcohol that he drank that turned back into Mikuta the first time, and he drinks something else, and he transforms first into Richard Moore, and then he transforms to Harley, and then he transforms into Shichikudo. And then he points out though, something strange is going on here. Richard Moore's got three bangs, three little hairs instead of two. Rachel's bang is different. Amy has got a scarf on instead of a bow. George's bald spot is a different part of his head, and Mitch's missing his freckles, and it includes, yep, it's a dream. The whole thing was a dream. And of course, he wakes up, and apparently he was up late reading the Yab manga. Yep. And by the way, the image they show in here, that's actually the cover image of Volume 1. I looked up online, that is the cover image. Yeah, and that's basically that one. It's a pretty good one. Interesting seeing that they have these characters from these various series interact with each other. Yeah, Akino, this is basically for her. This is her first time she's ever been outside of the manga. First time animation-wise. Her next appearance animation would actually be in the 219th episode of Case Closed. Coming probably not long after this. Actually, about a few years after this. Then we have the 4th special of the Detective Conan, basically, which is also the second Magic Kaito one. This adaptation of, once again, Chapter 21. Mostly the stories remain pretty much the same. There's some minor changes here and there. Like, for instance, they throw in Conan and Rachel, even though they were nowhere in the original one. Heck, I even really enjoyed it when Conan basically sees Snake, sees him, doesn't interact with it. He interacts with him very briefly. I love his interaction with Prince Philip. That I thought was a really neat scene. This scene felt very necessary because, well, they're there, so why not attack the prince? They don't interact with the queen, surprisingly. As for Kaito, he proceeds to do the same exact thing he always does. The only slight change that they make in this one that's not in the other ones is that, well, Aho, basically, who's in this one, she's not in the first one. Yeah, what they do with her is that he gives her a drink, and apparently puts like a knockout drug on the coaster, knocks her out, transforms into the Kaito Kid, and of course they have the little lights out thing, and of course it's actually the guards who do notice that they actually show the cups before they say, okay, which one's your cup? Instead of like the other two times I've seen this particular scene, where it's like, she asking like, which one's your cup, and then you see the massive thing. I get why that was changed, the other ones, because this basically felt completely stupid of a thing they did, because my guess is that this is a mistake they made, which luckily when they readapt this later for the Magic Kaito special, for the adapt this one, and the episode of the Magic of 4-time anime, they actually do not have the showing the cups thing before they say, oh yeah, which one is your cup? And of course they find it. Also, the diamond's different color this time, because both in the special and in the 4-time anime, it's a yellow color. This one's basically looks like a giant diamond. They say it's an emerald, even though emeralds are usually green. This is like a lightish green color. And of course, Kaito Kid steals it, pretty much the same way he does. And of course, Oh yeah, and they do not have his like, and of course they do have a slight change this one, where they have it where he's not that far from his mother because of the whistle for Caesar. They do the same thing they do in the first special I saw that depth this, where of course you have Kaito inspecting the cat. It's about multiple scratches across his eye, just a little scratch across the sake cheek, and that's basically it. And let's see. So in the room, the room is slightly different. They changed it from the other one. Though later on, he does get. Yeah, this is a particular thing I kind of thought they would basically cut out. But every version, they have this thing end with basically, like, prior to the queen basically hugging him, she is basically slapping him all 3 times. Yep. This one actually has something that the other two do not bother to do. One of them has got a flip phone and takes pictures of what's going on top of the train. Apparently, she notices they're on top of the train, even though that, here's the thing, in the other two, she does not notice at all. She never notices, which is kind of stupid. Yeah. I don't know why they actually did not have this in the other ones. Basically, have her worried about her own son. And of course, they show a little bit more of the flashback what happened, like with his father, the king of the country they come from, and yeah, it's a really good one. And of course, Rachel basically also gets upset. Conan disappears, but yeah. And by the way, they use a new character in this one who is actually not only who's actually a character associated with the organization that the Magic Cow organization. This character named Rose basically takes subordinate. She only appears in this one OVA. She does not appear in the airtime after this. She's not from the manga. She's basically original. She was completely useless of a character. Yeah, shows up, basically talks with Snake briefly, and a couple times she basically disguised up as basically a conductor, and then Conan knocks her with his tranquilizer gun, and that's all you see of her. Like, or play, oh yeah, she's gonna assassinate the queen. Gets taken out quickly by Conan. Yeah, I can kind of understand why they never brought this character back in the other times they adapted this particular one. Yep, but this was a really good one. Now, there is a slight animation change to this one. Now, basically, how Snake gets off the train is simply very similar to how he got in the special that tapped the second time, because he hits the wall. Unlike in the fourth time anime, he just falls off the train. hmm Yep, this time they actually have Kaito keep on his monocle, which actually is not present in the other two. My guess is that was another mistake they made. So they and they are the second and third time they adapt this particular chapter, they do not have basically had the monocle on his face. Excuse me. And then both times they had the thing kind of end with Aho finding the jewel. Though they actually use something this one they do not have in the other two. Actually have arrive at Okino Station and walk at meet people. They actually have her stop one time before this. Yeah, they don't have this at all, which I would have thought they would have had this, but nope. My guess is that was probably to cut for time, or they probably thought was necessary. Yep. But yeah, that's it for the Magic Kaito specials. Yeah, not much else there for the OVAs for basically for Magic Kaito. Yeah, of course this was the first things they ever adapted. This occurred like over 10 years before they adapted for the specials and then the OVA, the Fortune of Search, which I think that one's a little better because that one sticks a lot more close to the manga. Though the other one I did not like what they actually changed. We did different how it was in the special was when they had the snow one. But yeah, that's particularly it for this particular review. My next review is going to be a comic corner. Yep. And it'll be 2 trades related to the character Thor. Okay? Do you see next view? Bye.